Charlemagne.
Charlemagne.
The other xenophobes.
The other xenophobes.
Europe's lefties know how to bash migrants nearly as well as the hard right.
Europe's lefties know how to bash migrants as hard as the hard rights. As bad as the hard rights.
As Europe faced a sharp rise in the arrival of migrants seeking asylum in 2015,
as Europe faced a sharp rise in the sharp rise in migrants seeking asylum in 2015.
Many national governments demanded more be done to stem the flow.
Many national governments demanded more be done to stem the flow.
Sweden's Prime Minister disagreed.
Sweden's Prime Minister disagreed.
My Europe does not build walls.
My Europe does not build walls.
Stefan Löfven, leader of the Social Democrats, thundered in response.
Stefan Löfven, leader of the Social Democrats, thundered in response.
Exuding the high-mindedness left-wingers muster at will.
Exuding the high-mindedness left-wingers muster at will.
A couple of electoral setbacks later,
it
turns out voters are rather keen on walls during migration crises.
It turns out voters are rather keen on walls during migration crisis.
The party is speaking from a different register, this time as an opposition force.
The party is speaking from a different register, this time as an opposition force.
The Swedish people can feel safe in the knowledge.
The Swedish people can feel safe in the knowledge
that Social Democrats will stand up for a strict migration policy.
That Social Democrats will stand out in a strict migration policy.
Magdalena Andersson, its current leader, said in an interview to a local paper in December.
Magdalena Andersson, a current leader, said to a local newspaper in December.
Remember peace, open borders, and the Socialist Brotherhood of Man?
Remember peace, open borders, and Socialist Brotherhood of Man?
Not Mrs. Andersson.
Not Mrs. Andersson.
Free immigration is not left-wing, she now argues.
Free immigration is not left-wing, she now argues.
Migrant bashing has had a good run of late in Europe.
Migrant bashing has had a new run late in Europe.
Largely as a result of the xenophobic hard right gaining ground across the continent.
Largely as a result of xenophobic hard right gaining across the continent.
Across the continent. Largely as a result of the xenophobic hard right gaining ground across the continent.
Largely as a result of the hard right gaining ground on the continent.
But these days, it is not just the ideological allies of Marine Le Pen in France.
But these days, it's not just ideological allies like Marine Le Pen in France.
Or Geert Wilders in the Netherlands.
Or Geert Wilders to the Netherlands.
Banging on about new arrivals or the integration of old ones.
Banging on about new arrivals or the integration of new ones.
Parties on the other end of the political spectrum sometimes join in.
Parties other side of the political spectrum sometimes join in.
On September 1st, Sarah Wagenknecht, a German stalwart of the radical left,
on September 1st, of the German radical left,
is expected to do well in 2 state elections, with a third to come later in the month.
Is expected to do well in the 2-state election.
Do well in 2 state elections, with a third to come later in the month.
is expected to do well in the Tuesday election, with the vote to come later in the month.
Polls show that in some contests, her one-woman band, launched in October,
Polls show that her one-woman band, launched in October, show
will beat all three parties of the ruling coalition.
will be all three parties of the ruling coalition.
Beyond wanting to soak the rich,
Beyond wanting to soak the rich.
it is Volkswagen-Connect's overt animosity to migrants that stands out.
Well, it is most vibrant.
It is Volkswagen-Connect's overt animosity to migrants that stands out.
It is most vibrant connections and vigorosity for immigrants.
That stands out.
That stands out.
Her claim there is no more room to take in refugees
Her claim there is no more room to take in refugees
is the kind of rhetoric that has helped propel the Nationalist Alternative for Germany,
Is-
AfD, to the top of the polls.
It's the kind of rhetoric that has protected
Is the kind of rhetoric that has helped propel the Nationalist Alternative for Germany, or AfD, to the top of the polls.
It's the type of poll that helped the National of the Germany, or the Association of National Germany, or AfD, that topped up the poll. Rhetoric that has helped propel the Nationalist Alternative for Germany, or AfD, to the top of the polls.
The stabbing spree by a Syrian failed asylum seeker that left 3 dead on August 24th. The stabbing spree by a Syrian failed asylum seeker that left 3 dead on August 24th.
Stabbing spree that failed. A stabbing spree that failed. A stabbing spree that failed asylum seeking that left 3 dead.
Would once have delivered a windfall to the hard right.
Will once have delivered a windfall to the hard right.
This time it is likely to help Volkswagen-Connect's lot just as much.
This time it is much as the.
This time it is likely to help Volkswagen-Connect's lot just as much.
This time it is likely to make the Wagon Connect parts just as much.
Is the left simply aping the xenophobic right to siphon off some of its votes?
Is the aping. Is the left simply aping the xenophobic right to siphon some of its votes?
If so, it is becoming a proven strategy.
If so, it is becoming a proven strategy.
In Denmark, Mette Frederiksen, Prime Minister since 2019,
In Denmark, Prime Minister, the Prime Minister since 2019,
has inserted a hefty dose of hard-nosed policy on migration
has launched a heavy dose on migrant policy
into her centre-left party's programme.
into her centre-left party's program.
Far from reversing her conservative predecessors' tough rhetoric on new arrivals,
Far from processing consecutive conservatives.
far from reversing her conservative predecessors' tough rhetoric on new arrivals,
Far from processing her conservative processors to the processors tough rhetoric on new arrivals.
she made it her own.
She made it her own.
So-called ghettos with lots of migrants and crime,
So-called ghettos with lots of migrants and crime,
or just poverty, have been raised in a bid to force newcomers to integrate.
or just poverty, have been raised and newcomers to integrate.
Some refugees from Syria have been told their country is now safe enough to return to.
Some refugees from Syria had been told that their country is now safe enough to return to.
A plan to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda so they could be processed there was mooted.
A report to the
A plan to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda so they could be processed there was mooted.
plan to deport the asylum seekers back there was mooted.
Asylum seekers to Rwanda so they
To
could be
Rwanda?
processed there was mooted.
The plan to deport asylum seekers to protest there was mooted.
The strategy horrifies many socialists beyond Denmark, but is popular.
A socialist
The strategy horrifies many socialists beyond Denmark, but is popular.
The strategy horrifies many beyond Denmark, but is popular.
With the exception of tiny Malta, Ms. Frederiksen is the only centre-left leader in Europe
In the Malta, Mr. Frederiksen is the only tiny left in New Europe. It's the only center left in Europe.
whose party is both in office and ahead in the polls.
Whose party is both head in the office.
Whose party is both in office and ahead in the polls.
Whose office is both in office and head in the polls. And ahead in the polls.